Hey, what's up everyone? It's Rich. All right, let's do this. I'm pumped. We're gonna ink some more rain. So, I don't know if I necessarily need to apologize, but yesterday, because the ink was getting pretty wet in this area, and I wanted to do the video in one pass, there was no way to really move forward, and I'm going to explain why, because it's important to understand. Okay, there are times when you can hop around on a piece of art. Like if I'm inking up here, and this is all very wet, and I'm still working on the Hulk, I can very easily go in here and start working on his abs, or his arm, or even the rocks down here, whatever it is. But because we're doing the rain, and it's all focused in a very kind of funnel-like perspective, everything is going this way. Sorry, I'm looking in my phone and trying to... Everything is sweeping up to a vanishing point that's up here. At one point, you'll see towards the end of the video, I was tempted to go down here. The problem is David's lines drift right here, and they are not in perspective. So what he has established up here is not consistent down here. They start to straighten up, and the risk of me not following through with my own pattern is... I can, like say I did this. If I come down here and start working here and these are off, when I start to connect this, you know, an hour later when this is dry and this is dry and I want to sweep through, all of a sudden these lines are going to really stand out. You're going to have like this section of lines beneath it that are off point. They're off perspective. So it was safer for me to show what you would really do in that situation. Is there are times when you're inking, traditionally, you have to walk away from a piece for a few minutes and let it dry. That's usually when I'll take a walk. I get out of the house and get some exercise. Yeah, okay, so let's continue on. What I may do today is I may pause the video if it gets too wet, and then we'll be able to do a tiny bit more. But again, this is a commission. The guy wants more rain in the piece. He wanted it inked a certain way. He had seen some other stuff that I had done, and I aims to please. So, all right, let's do this. The lines start to get incredibly long too, so this is going to be interesting. At some point, I'm probably going to have to grab a different size triangle, because if you look here, I have one somewhere, it really runs the length of the page. It's long. There's going to be some lines in here that are really, really long. So anyway, let's do this. And I may go through and do another pass, is probably what's going to happen. Is I'll go through and do my first sets of rain, and then if I want to amp it up more, I will come back and do, you know, more, and I can kind of fill in areas. And then the only other thing that I had mentioned in the other video that I thought was a pretty good piece of advice is randomize where your start and stop points are. You're going to have to really kind of develop your own eye for a sense of aesthetics with that stuff. I've got a pretty good eye for design and randomness, and so my instinct is pretty good on like where to stop and start, and see, my cat agrees. Okay, seriously, do not start this now. I have one of the world's most talkative cats, and it loves to eat. And it's not fat, actually. It's a pretty thin cat. I think it's Siamese. Part Siamese. It doesn't look Siamese. But anyway, so yeah. The ink is, I want it actually a little bit more diluted. It's got to fly off the nib a little longer. I want longer lines. So what I'm going to do is, I put a little fresh ink in my old ink from yesterday, and you know, it's probably, this is something that I'm realizing watching my videos, is I fight with the ink more than I need to, so I'm probably going to start actually pulling my old ink out at night when I'm done inking for the day, and then starting the day with fresh ink and coming up with a different plan for that. But anyway, I just put a little bit of water, so the mix right now is probably 90% ink, 10% water, and it could even be more ink. Maybe it's 95% ink. And then again, these lines are super duper long, so I'm going to be real careful here. This is more, these are almost like guidelines. Again, the rain's going to be quite dense, so you know, you could just think of this as sort of filling in a little bit of an area. But I'll pull the camera out of the holder at the end. I don't want to risk the autofocus getting messed up, but anyway. And then, you know, the other thing I was going to consider, as I was considering some arcing lightning, possibly kind of cutting through here. It's very tight, though. I almost think that it might look a little forced in. I don't know. I'm still kind of considering it. What I might do is at the end of this video, I might mess around with pencil and try it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw some guidelines in. So because these lines are so long and I don't have the actual template that I want to use, I'm just going to throw in a few lines to nail down the perspective, because again, David's perspective, this is commission, this is not a knock on David. He probably did this at a show, or, you know, I mean, under a circumstance where there was, you know, a bit of a time constraint, and so, you know, things, it's a con sketch. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to confirm that I get the lines going the right direction down here, because I do not want the perspective to slip up at any point, and they don't match the top and the bottom, so it's safer for me. And again, randomized, I'm not keeping this stuff at the same spacing or even the same start and stop points, and that will help. I mean, again, your eye ultimately will dictate if you made the right calls on where stuff should go. But I can show you some pattern theories that I use later, like creating randomness that looks cool, stylized randomness. I used to really study a few things, and I think I made the right call on some of the things that I picked up, and they ended up being really effective little, I don't know if you want to call them X factor elements to some of the things that I do, but I think that the stuff looks good because of the choices that I'm making based on some abstract design sense, if that makes sense. It's like, again, it falls down to proportion. It's there's no difference of drawing. Okay, when you draw a head, the eyes sit in a certain place in the cranium, the nose is a certain distance, and the mouth is a certain distance from those other objects, same with the ears. And if you have that off balance, you will get a different looking face. The characteristics of that face will be different. It can be attractive or it can be unattractive. And the same goes really for anything that you work on, is that there's certain design elements that will work together and some that won't. So even like raindrops or star patterns or things like that, you want to make the right call on where you place them. And if things like nature is random, you know what I mean? Like if you draw like leaves on a tree are random patterns, but within those random patterns you can create stylized separation of the leaves and really get some attractive looks that still look random. All right, said your buddy Rich has got your back. Still haven't even signed the piece myself yet, which is no big deal. I'm not really that worried about it, but again, I'm more concerned about the perspective. And again, these are just guidelines for what's coming. At some point I probably will have some rain crossing over the Hulk too, but like I said, this is me basically just putting down a bit of a landscape of where the lines go so that nothing drifts. And we're getting a decent amount of wet ink on here. You know what? Let me pause this for a second. I'll come back in 1 sec. You won't even notice I'm gone. Okay, I'm back. You know, I thought of a really good example of someone who's very good at using abstract to create really interesting and effective design around drawings. Jim Lee. Look at all the Twitch stuff and YouTube stuff that he's been doing. His backgrounds. The guy is really good at using random chaos and splatter and smearing and smudging, and he puts down some really beautiful effects that really work well with his compositions. The reason he's so good at it is Jim actually does have a bit of an art background, on top of the fact that, I mean, he is a big fan of art, so he's looked at a ton of great art. But he could be a great painter. I've seen enough of Jim working in person, and we've experimented with things together. The dude could totally do fine art. I think he would actually be really good at it. He has so many commercial sensibilities, and almost like locks him down in a weird way. Like, I think like if he just cut loose and went like, all right, I'm gonna really put like something, you know, like took a big risk with it, Granted, not comic book fans would be like, why aren't you drawing Batman? What is going on with this? But he's that talented that he's a great comic book artist, but he could actually do something very serious and make it great. Okay, so again, I'm sort of ignoring David's perspective. We're gonna sweep this around and we'll keep it like on point, because it's just it's gonna be risky if not. So I'm gonna start swinging these raindrops around at a more kind of intense angle here in a second. Okay, I want to make sure that this matches up. And again, they're gonna drift off of his lines for just a sec. What I need to do is I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to put a guideline for myself. So I can use my long ruler for this, because this, although it is a beveled edge, I wouldn't use this particular ruler for doing this the straight lines. So okay, so we are right here right now. I'm going to kind of like find the vanishing point. Actually, you know what? I'm going to unpause this for just 1 second just to find the vanishing point, because I have to move the page. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, it was there was little sets of lines that were in the piece that were sort of like drifting, and it was worrying me in the pencils, and I needed to really kind of like take my long ruler. So essentially what I did is it's a, like, I call it like a fan perspective. I used to see Arthur Adams would do it in panels, but I mean, you basically on a small scale would be like this. I'll just draw on the thing. Like if this is your page, you have like a vanishing point up here, and everything fans out. I hope you can see that. You see what I'm saying? It's like this is the vanishing point. All the rain is like falling like this. So that's essentially what we've got going here. What it was is because David had done it maybe at like a show or something like that, there were sets of lines that weren't really matching up, and it was concerning me as I went through. Again, there's going to be splatter and some white effects, white splatter and black splatter in this piece, so we'll definitely blend things in if you had small areas. You just want to be mindful. Don't go too far without double checking. That would be my advice. Is like the worst thing you can do is throw tons of sets of lines and not like step back from the piece for a second or two and double check how you're staying on point. Because better to have to deal with you know, 8 or 10 lines that maybe don't go exactly the direction you want, as opposed to, you know, you've inked, you know, 2/3 of what you want to do. You kind of pop your head up away from the page and you look at it and you go, oh my god, I just made a boo-boo. So you don't want that. And again, I will have rain probably passing in front of the Hulk. Right now the goal is just to get stuff around him, and then I'll build up the level of detail and density of the rain in a little bit. So we're at 13 minutes. I'll go for like 3 more minutes. You know, I was going to mention too is definitely check out my Patreon. I've been uploading little extensions of some of the videos. You know, like if when I do a video, these are free that you can check out, but like when I did the Jim Murray Batman Demon, you know, I posted a piece of art up there of Jim's, and I added up a unlisted video today for Patreon supporters. So even if you go and donate $1, I am actually making videos that are unlisted that you'll have full access to, and I'll send you links to all the ones that I've put up. So, and you could do a one-time dollar like tip and get access to that stuff. So again, nice find. Really what I'm trying to do right now is just make sure that I'm nailing the angle of everything, and we'll get into the more intense rain in the next section. And I may even just complete this first pass of like the thinner lines, just to because it would be a little redundant, I think, to just keep doing it. And I know some people have asked, like, will I ever do like a full piece, like inking it? I probably will, but honestly, we're gonna start turning the channel into a direction where it's full passes on art, meaning concepting it, roughing it out, penciling it, inking it, and maybe even color as I get more brave with actually trying to like share that. I'm not intimidated to color my own stuff, but for me to get online and share coloring information at this point, I think would be jumping the gun a little bit. I at least try to have like some level of I don't know if you call it expertise, but you know what I'm saying, like a handle on it. I don't want to just be like, this is what I do, and you know, people are going like, dude, what in the world are you up to? You're crazy. It doesn't even make sense. But once you have some success with things, then it doesn't matter. You go, this is the way I do it, and it looks cool. Suck it. No, always be respectful. All right, and also check me out on Instagram. I do post on Instagram. I honestly, I use Instagram a tiny bit different than I think some comic book artists I see. I definitely post fun stuff that, you know, like if I see a piece of fine art that I think is cool, I'll share it, you know, or if I see something funny, I'll share it. So I don't go there and just promote and show whips of my stuff like nonstop. So, you know, I've sometimes debated, like, should I have a second Instagram for that stuff and then just have one channel for only art? Let me know what you guys think. Does that bug you when comic book artists post, I don't know if you call it personal stuff, but you know what I mean, stuff that's non-art related? I follow like Slash, the guitarist Slash, and Nikki Sixx just for fun, and their Instagram feeds are actually really cool. Slash is a really big art fan. It's the weirdest thing. Like, he's huge. Like, Kirk Hammett from Metallica is very famous for being like, he's a huge Frazetta fan. He's into monsters, and you know, does his Dr. Von Hammerstein's he has like his own comic convention thing that he does for horror. But Slash is like way into that stuff, and his channel or his Instagram feed is really, really fun to follow because he's always posting art and stuff, and honestly, it's less music related than you would think. But okay, so anyway, like I said, the balance is off right now, but you'll see I'll go back in and start doing more heavy patches of rain through this. But again, my thing was I wanted to make sure that I'm committing the direction of the lines in. It was very, very important that that didn't drift, and I didn't want to have something weird pop up. So, okay, smash the like. I will be back tomorrow with more of this. We'll finish this little back area right here, and then we'll complete this. And there'll be like there'll be lots more drippy rain off of him, and then raindrops going in front of him. Probably not a ton, but you'll see. We'll start to blend it all in, and then when you start putting a little bit of black splatter and white splatter at the end, it's gonna look sick. It'll look really, really cool. So, have fun, draw. I did sign it when I was because I wanted to make sure that I had, you know, room for it with the rain and all that. Okay, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great day. Have fun drawing. And yeah, check out Jim Lee's YouTube channel. I'm sure you already have, but if you haven't, look him up. It's really good. I'll actually put a link in the description below and a link to my Patreon. Go check it out. I'm telling you. All right, bye.